Hi everybody, back for another review, and now we're going to do part 3 of the Evil Dead marathon, and this time we're going to be focusing on the third film in the franchise, which is Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is a medieval horror comedy film that came out back in 1993, and basically it pretty much picks up right where Evil Dead 2 left off, with Ash ultimately going back in time to the medieval times to ultimately deal with and face against the Deadites once again, but now this time in a medieval setting where pretty much, he ends up falling in love with some medieval girl, he ends up helping King Arthur battle the Deadites, and ultimately try to find the Necronomicon so he can hopefully get back to his own time. And of course what follows is a plethora of comedic humor, incredible battle scenes where, the humans fight the undead. It's actually a lot of fun. This is actually a fun little entertaining film that actually is a rather worthy conclusion to the Evil Dead trilogy. Now, with all that being said, even though I pretty much digested the entire plot of the film in a nutshell, probably wondering, as a kid, I always thought, the way Evil Dead 2 ended, because it ended with that epic cliffhanger, and ultimately moving into Army of Darkness. So for the longest time, I was like, okay, after watching Evil Dead's 1 and 2, I was like, now as a kid, I had no idea that Army of Darkness was Evil Dead 3. I had no idea. Because when I saw Evil Dead 2, and it ended with that cliffhanger of Ash going back to the medieval times, I thought, okay, so where's Evil Dead 3? There's got to be a third one, right? Because you can't end the sequel like that. There's got to be a third one. So I had one of those Video Hound Golden Movie Retriever books as a kid growing up, because I loved watching movies and I liked, reading about them and looking at them. And in those books, they rated movies by bones instead of stars. And of course, I saw Evil Dead 1 and 2 in there, and I'm like, where's the third one? There's got to be a third Evil Dead. And so I looked in one of the indexes, and I saw Evil Dead 3, and it said, see Army of Darkness. I'm like, Army of Darkness? And sure enough, I found it in there. And yeah, Army of Darkness is the third Evil Dead. So I was like, why is the third Evil Dead called Army of Darkness? I have no idea. And I realized that because Army of Darkness was the first Evil Dead film to actually be released by a major studio, which was Universal at the time. Oh, it's funny, Renaissance Pictures, which was the small independent company that Sam Raimi sort of founded that actually released all the other Evil Deads. But look at this, Dino De Laurentiis was actually involved with it too. And that's going to lead me into a bit of a topic I want to hurry up and get through real quick before I go into other detail. Something I should have mentioned in the other Evil Dead movies when I was talking about them. With the first Evil Dead, one of the big reasons why the movie got such a huge, following, one of the reasons the movie, it owes a lot of its success to Stephen King, who was such a huge fan of the film. He actually praised the movie and called it the most ferociously original horror film of the year. And ferociously original. That was actually Stephen King that said that quote. And it was because of that the movie actually slowly but surely gained popularity. It was all thanks, one of the main reasons was because of him. And then when Evil Dead 2 began production, Stephen King actually got whiff of it. And he was, at the time, working on Maximum Overdrive with Dino De Laurentiis. And he actually suggested to Dino that when he learned about Evil Dead 2 going into development, he told him, dude, you should actually get involved with Evil Dead 2. And in a way, Dino actually did get involved and helped finance the movie. And that is also what led to him being involved with Army of Darkness, no doubt. So, yes. That's how Dino De Laurentiis came to be involved with Army of Darkness. And of course, pretty much everybody, obviously, and also right after Evil Dead 2, Sam Raimi was hoping to do a film adaptation of The Shadow, a comic strip series, which unfortunately he couldn't acquire the rights to, and ultimately that's what led him into making Darkman for Universal. And ultimately, after that film became a rather profitable success, Sam Raimi ultimately decided, well, yeah, I think it's about the time we finally conclude the Evil Dead trilogy. And ultimately, that's what led to him getting Army of Darkness made. Army of Darkness was unfortunately a bit of a commercial flop when it came out back in 1993. And, oh, by the way, 93, this film is now 30 years old. Hard to believe. 30th anniversary. So unfortunately, the movie was an unfortunate flop. Universal, it seems like they just didn't seem to care about the release of the film. It's like they just wanted to put out like a small trailer for it, and boom, the movie only grossed a mere. It was made on a production budget of $11 million, which at the time, of course, made it the most expensive of the Evil Dead trilogy. And ultimately, the film literally it made about that much at the box office. It grossed a little over $11 million. So yeah, it died. It was pulled out pretty quick. But it was met with mostly mixed to positive reviews by critics. It didn't get anywhere near as much critical acclaim as the first two movies did, but nonetheless, when it came out to home video, that's where the popularity really began to surge. I mean, it developed a cult following about as quick as the first two movies. And just like the first two, its cult following is ridiculously huge. There were comic books made. There was a whole line of action figures, which, by the way, which does lead me to show you here. Give me a second here. There's that. And here is my action figure of Ash from Army of Darkness. As you can see, it's a little... didn't really do, I just put them on a shelf and just, kind of left them there. And I have, all these little figurines, here's a little mini Ash, as you can see here. Like in the movie when he shatters the mirror and the little mini Ashes come out. Here's the Necronomicon. And here is his gauntlet hand, which, by the way, if you can actually detach the chainsaw here, and you can actually put the metal gauntlet right there in its place. And I think he also can hold I don't know if he's able to hold the book here with his hand, I'm not sure. But like I said, I've had this figurine for a long time, and in the back here is where his shotgun and stuff is. But I like the chainsaw in this thing, and ooh, this thing is actually sharp, holy crap. But yeah, I've had this figurine for a long time, and honestly, for the longest time, I wish I actually had kept him in packaging, because, yeah, he is starting to show his age. But honestly, it fits with the character really well. I mean, yeah, you can see his shirt's all torn up, and yeah, like I said, the detail is incredible, to say the least. I think the figurine was made by, well, Todd McFarlane, I heard, actually did many of the action figurines for many of the Evil Dead movies, so that could explain that. So gonna stay? I'll stay. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, Army of Darkness amassed a huge following, literally, and like I said, comic books, figurines, even there were a couple of video games made based on the success of Evil Dead trilogy. Actually, there was one on the PlayStation, which was Evil Dead Hail to the King, which was on PlayStation, and I think it was also on Sega Dreamcast. And there were two on the PlayStation 2, Evil Dead Fistful of Boomstick and Evil Dead Regeneration, which I know Hail to the King acted like a follow-up to Army of Darkness. Fistful of Boomstick sort of did the same thing, more or less. Actually, Fistful of Boomstick was a follow-up to Hail to the King, and Regeneration basically ignored the events of Army of Darkness in the two previous games and acted like a follow-up to Evil Dead 2. The games actually were a lot of fun to play. Fistful of Boomstick is the one I recommend because that was my favorite of the three games. But either way, the cult following, and of course, as you can imagine, like the first two Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness, when it came out to home video, it must have been released so many times on various formats, it's ridiculous. I own a VHS by Universal. Then Universal put out a DVD version, and then Anchor Bay. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin. I can't even count the number of releases on my two hands alone. They must have put out so many versions of Army of Darkness, it's ridiculous. I owned one by Anchor Bay, which was the standalone DVD, which only had the theatrical version. But I know Anchor Bay put out at least 2 or 3 versions that had not only the theatrical version, but a second disc that had an extended director's cut with an alternate ending. And some fans actually prefer the alternate ending over the theatrical one, and vice versa. But and then Army of Darkness finally got a Blu-ray by Universal, which was the Screwhead edition, which honestly wasn't bad, and I've owned that one for a while until Shout Factory got the last laugh by releasing this handsome collector's edition release of Army of Darkness, which is, well, I know there's also a 4K version by Shout Factory too, but either way, Shout Factory did a phenomenal job with this release. And by the way, it's 3 discs. Disc 1 has the theatrical cut, Disc 2 has the director's cut, and Disc 3 has 2 alternate cuts of the film, an international cut and a television cut. That's 4 cuts of the movie spread across 3 discs. That's insane. Not to mention an incredible wealth of extras, too. But before I talk about the Blu-ray release, I want to talk about a bizarre glitch that occurred when I first bought the... I actually own 2 copies of Army of Darkness here. Here's the other one. And yeah, it's virtually identical, but I promise you there are differences between these 2 versions. This one here is the one I initially got, and the main difference between the this disc and the other is this one is the one that has the glitches on it. And there's a couple of glitches that occurred in the movie, which I will mention here right now. The first glitch is when Ash gets chased by the evil in the forest. It's right after he's on horseback and he gets knocked down. And there's a shot where he jumps over a rock wall and goes tumbling down a hillside. There's like a brief moment where the audio does not sync up with the video. Like the video, like the whole thing is still there, but the audio does not sync up. Actually, I take it back. The shot of him jumping over the rock wall is actually not in the movie. It's the audio's there, but the shot is not. So it doesn't sync up right. And there's a shot later where Ash is, his bad version is trying to break free of his body. And there's like a quick reaction shot. There's like in the original version, there's a shot where Ash is like looking down at his arm, to making sure that he's okay. But that part is gone too. And obviously people complain to Shout Factory, and before you know it, Shout Factory did actually put out replacement discs, and though I never actually ordered one, I ended up buying a second copy of the movie. This one actually, I got this one off Amazon, but this one here I got off of Shout Factory's actual website. And this one actually does have the corrected disc. In fact, let me see here. There is a, there's a coding on here. Let me look at the other one real fast. So the coding on this one is BD16027. That's the coding on the original release with the glitches. And the other one, which is the corrected one, the coding is BD16027V2. So yes, it's obvious that Shout Factory did release the corrected version of the movie here on the disc. So yeah, sorry, I'm messing with the focus filter because it's not being nice to me here. There we go. So yeah, so thankfully I'm glad the Shout Factory fixed that issue, which I'm really glad. Several of their Blu-rays are like that, where they actually released like movies on Blu-ray where glitches actually happen to pop up. But I'm actually glad they fixed that for this release. So, but I kept this one, because I feel like the glitched Blu-ray might one day become a rare collector's item, because people just figure they're just going to toss it in the trash and say forget it. But you know what? I decided to hold on to it. Oh yeah, by the way, mentioning that Army of Darkness did pick up a couple of Saturn nominations. It was nominated for makeup and for Best Horror Film, which in the 1994 Saturns, it was actually voted Best Horror Film at the Saturn Awards. And it beat out some rather tough competitors that year, because it was up against Needful Things, The Dark Half, and even, believe it or not, the Jean-Claude Van Damme film Hard Target, which was a nominee for Best Horror Film. Don't ask why, because that movie's more of an action film than it is a horror movie. But surprisingly, Hard Target, Sam Raimi was actually involved with that movie. Could that be the reason why it's considered a horror film? Because Sam Raimi was involved? I mean, John Woo directed it, but it's still an action film over a horror movie. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the Blu-ray here by Shout Factory. As I've already said, it's 3 discs in the inside. So yeah, there's 1 disc, and there's 2, and there's 3. And honestly, I like the artwork on the discs themselves. It's actually pretty cool. This one was the DVD front cover for the limited edition release of the director's cut for the longest time. This one here, I like how it's got the skull, sort of like on Evil Dead 2 right there. That's pretty cool, actually. And now I don't know if that's supposed to be well, yeah, the castle. I mean, but it's kind of a weird looking castle. Kind of reminds me of one of the parts of the theme park ride at the end of Child's Play 3 a little bit. Well, there you go. Now, of course, the reversible cover art is on the back here too. Let me show it real fast. Yeah, that's the reversible cover art for Army of Darkness. That's that was the cover art that Shout Factory made for the release of the film. But I am one of those guys. One of the things I love about Shout Factory is I liked how they used the original poster art for the movie, which is why it's on the front cover there, which is great. So anyway, the video quality for the movie, I guess, varies depending on which version of the film you decide to watch, because the theatrical version is undeniably probably the best looking film of the 4 releases. But yeah, the films vary in runtime, the director's cut being the lengthiest at 96, and the theatrical version being the shortest at 81. But honestly, the theatrical version looks great. It looks fantastic. Although it's not as sharp looking as the Universal Blu-ray is, but I will say the Shout Factory version kind of gets it right. It does look, it looks fantastic for the most part. There are still a couple of spots where, you could definitely see that the film could do a little bit of improvement, but being a film made in the early 90s, that's, it fits with the tone, and it fits very well. It looks great. There's still a lot of great detail to be found in the movie, and nonetheless, and some of the effect sequences, while yeah, they look okay, but even though they could have been a little better, but at the same time, they fit the movie perfectly. So I would say out of a rating of 5 stars, I'd give the video probably a 4.5 out of 5. It actually looks pretty good for the most part. The audio is presented in DTS 5.1 and 2.0, but unfortunately the TV cut has the 2.0 only, so 5.1, and it sounds great. The audio is fantastic. The explosions, the dialogue, everything comes out perfectly. The sound effects are all great. Even the swords clashing during the final fight. It's great. So I would say out of 5 stars, I'd probably give the audio the same thing, 4.5 out of 5. As for the bonus features, I could just say a solid 5 out of 5, just showing what we got here. I mean, the extras are all spread across each disc. Disc 1 has this documentary called New Medieval Times, The Making of. It's basically a documentary that runs longer than the movie itself. It is over an hour and a half long, and it's a major comprehensive look at the making of the movie. So many people are involved with the production of the film, like Bruce Campbell, Ted Raimi, Bill Moseley, Patricia Tallman. So many people are involved, but I'm surprised that Sam Raimi didn't, or maybe, I can't remember if he did do interviews for that or not. It's been a while since I've seen the documentary. The original ending, which is tacked on the director's cut, an alternate opening, which is also in the director's cut, and the deleted material, that is all in the director's cut. And also you get theatrical trailers, TV spots, and a US video promo. So moving on to disc 2, which has the director's cut, there's an audio commentary with Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and co-writer Ivan Raimi, Sam's brother. This is the same commentary that was actually on the Anchor Bay release with the director's cut. There's also a couple of featurettes here, Creating the Deadites, behind-the-scenes footage from K&B, a vintage making of, extended interview clips. So yeah, the second disc also offers a wealth of material. And disc 3 contains, once again, 2 additional versions of the film, a television cut and an international cut. The international cut, the television cut, I believe, is in, it's in standard definition, and it's in full screen. But the international cut is given a new 4K scan from the Interpositive. Also included are a theatrical trailer for the international cut and a still gallery with behind-the-scenes photos. So, When it comes to bonus material, yeah, I mean, like, if yeah, I cannot go any less than a solid 5 out of 5 for the extras. This set is jam packed with material. Shout Factory's Blu-ray of Army of Darkness is not going to be a cheap one, though. You're going to be paying probably upwards of $25 to $26. Or last I saw it was like 23 or 24 on Amazon, brand new. So you're not really paying too much. But if I were you, I would probably go to Shout Factory's website to get this Blu-ray, so you don't get the one with the sorry, the one with the glitch disc. Hopefully, you don't get that version. I unfortunately had to. Like I said, I had to buy it twice to get the corrected Blu-ray. But why? But then again, that's how big of a fan I am of this movie. Even though I am aware there is a 4K version of the film available, and it's 4 discs, but the only odd thing is only the theatrical version was remastered in 4K. The other 3 discs are just Blu-rays. So basically, the 4K set, the first disc is the 4K disc with the theatrical version. Disc 2 is the theatrical version on standalone Blu-ray. Disc 3 is the director's cut on Blu-ray, and Disc 4 is the international cut. So again, the only thing you're really getting there, if you already own the Shout Factory release, the 4K version, the only extra thing is the theatrical cut in 4K. It's somewhat disappointing, but still. Either way, Shout Factory, this is definitely one of the best collector's edition releases they've put out. This is by far the best release of Army of Darkness you're going to find, aside from 4K. And of course, I have one last thing to show here. If I wasn't a nerd enough of Army of Darkness, guess what? I also have the soundtrack on CD for Army of Darkness. The film score by Joseph LaDuca and the March of the Dead theme by Danny Elfman. So, yeah, so it's pretty awesome. I have the soundtrack on CD. This one was actually not hard to find. It was actually pretty cool. So, yeah, inside here... Yeah, Joseph LaDuca, he's actually a very talented composer. He's done a lot of interesting stuff, like, of course, the Hercules Legendary Journey series, Brotherhood of the Wolf, which his score on that film is fantastic. And he scored all the Evil Dead movies for Sam Raimi, except for the remake. So, yeah, honestly, all in all, this is actually a pretty good soundtrack. And the March of the Dead theme is a lot of fun to listen to as well. And obvious, Danny Elfman was a regular for Sam Raimi for many years. I mean, Darkman... the first Simple Plan, the first 2 Spider-Mans, and then they had a falling out during Spider-Man 2, but they came back together for Oz the Great and Powerful, and then eventually Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So it's obvious that Sam Raimi is like the other great go-to guy for Danny Elfman besides Tim Burton. So there you go. Obviously, a lot of people love to see similarities between Batman and Darkman, since they were both scored by Danny Elfman, but that's for another video review. Overall, yeah, this is a great film score. A lot of fun. So for, yeah, Army of Darkness, honestly, for those of you that have yet to... Oh, that's weird. Oh, of course, no duh. So yeah, for those of you that have yet to see Army of Darkness, please, by all means, definitely check this movie out. It's so much fun. By the way, the gore factor that was present in the first 2 movies, it's not really big in this one. All you get is like that giant geyser coming out of the pit, but that's about it. It's obvious Universal wanted to make this film more, appropriate for a major audience, being the fact that this was also the first Evil Dead movie to actually get an MPAA rating. It was rated R. Violence and horror, but no gore. Which is funny because, honestly, if I were to give this movie a rating today, I probably wouldn't even give it an R. I'd probably give it a PG-13, but then again, it does have a couple of scenes there. Like, you see him behead a Deadite with a chainsaw, so yeah, it does have a couple of, but for the most part, the battle with the battle with the undead at the end, I mean, like, there's not much blood spilled, despite the body count being rather high, but other than that, though, this movie is rather tame compared to the stuff we have today, but either way, it's still, even though the theatrical version runs at a mere 81 minutes, it still has so much packed into the film, it's ridiculous. And believe me, Army of Darkness is definitely worth watching. Highly recommended. And a fantastic way to finish off Sam Raimi's Evil Dead trilogy. Yeah, fantastic way to finish it off. So, highly recommended. So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to do more videos in the days to come. If you like this stuff, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my channel. And until then, take care and be safe.